Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of FCAD Gaming. I am your host, Alex, and this is the Hard Crafting Mod in Factorio. For this episode, I thought I'd try something a little bit different. Um, this copper production, quite frankly, is a mess. Um, it doesn't work on its own. I have to babysit it. I have to jumpstart these belts every once in a while. Um, I've got more ore than gravel, and I need to figure out what to do with it. Um, that being said, I've gotten some feedback from you guys in the past that you would rather watch me do this stuff rather than me do it off camera and then tell you what I did. But just for time constraints, I think what I'm going to do is actually record it, kind of compress the video down, maybe speed it up like 3 or 4 times, and just do a dub over it. That way, it'll take like an hour or so of gameplay down to like 15 minutes, which is a little bit more manageable. So, yeah, hopefully this works out. I haven't done this style of video in a long time. But yeah, as an added bonus, if you are a subscriber to me, I'm going to be live streaming this entire construction process. So I know it's a little bit late now, but um, if you subscribed and happen to be online when I'm doing this, you should get a notification saying that I'm live streaming. And I'll probably publish the video at, well, I don't know. Depending on what happens, I might actually publish the video as a companion video to this one. So, anyway, I'm going to go set up live streaming. I haven't done it on YouTube yet, so hopefully it's not too complicated. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and set that up and going to hand this video over to New Me. Hello, it's post commentary Alex here. So basically, excuse my chair. Basically, I just kind of went up here to double check what I had going on with iron production because I'm going to be modeling the copper production after the same general principle of having like a step one and then those products move over to the step two and so on and so forth. Also, the mine, well, the little tiny copper deposit that this mine was running off of had been exhausted. So I just basically decided to take the entire installation out, reuse some of the parts, and yeah, do all that good stuff and just some general maintenance going on as well. I think there was an attack and they took out some of my walls and whatnot. So I did decide to leave the boxes with the byproducts there. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with those. I might have to set up like a huge incinerator facility. Just because I'm between the two types of mines, I'm generating so much dirt and stone and stuff like that that I don't really know what to do with it, especially down in the copper area. The iron area, I've at least got it turned into stone blocks and walls, so it's something useful. But yeah, the copper industry is definitely making some byproducts that I'm not using. So anyway, getting back to the step one, step two process, I decided to set up these pulverizers to make the copper dust. And basically this entire setup is going to be four of one thing leading to four of another thing leading to four of a third thing. Um, so we already had gravel and copper ore set up on one belt, and so I had that feeding those pulverizers, and then I just decided to dump the sulfur and copper dust onto one belt and then have them be sorted out into two different boxes. The reason I did that rather than just putting them directly on the belt is so that I can kind of control um, the output of them with logistics network, and we'll see that in a little bit here. Basically, the ratio between the pulverizer to copper dust and sulfur and the production of copper sulfate um, isn't the same. You actually end up with more copper dust than sulfur. So I wanted the option to turn the copper dust into copper by just smelting it the old-fashioned way. Um, and there, a little bit ago, we had some biters take out some mines, and I decided to set up another turret station and just doing some general maintenance up on the iron ore facility, which I may add, uh, this entire little live stream that I did, which was almost an hour long, I never once had to mess with the actual workings of that. It's definitely working very well. So anyway, we have the copper and the sulfur going up there, being turned into copper sulfate. The next step is to put down chemical plants, which turn the copper sulfate into copper plates, gravel, and sulfuric acid, which we already have the sulfuric acid up and running, um, or linked into the network so that it'll make batteries and whatnot. And here I'm just kind of planning out in my head how everything's going to come together, because ultimately you have not just the input of copper sulfate, but you have to have water as well, which kind of pipes get in the way. It's a lot easier to put inserters down than it is to put pipes. And so not only do I have to think about that, but on the other side, sulfuric acid obviously is a liquid as well. So I have to have pipes on the other side of that, which ultimately what I end up doing is, I don't think I'm doing it quite yet, but that the way those factories are spaced out for power distribution doesn't work. Basically, I've got to bump everything up so that there's at least one space between each factory, which, yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of wasted time there, but not too much. Just, it was basically just moving everything over one. So, yeah, basically just moving around, trying to figure out exactly how to space everything out and how to make everything work. Because I have to use smart inserters, I can't just do a double belt with a inserter and a long-armed inserter. So what I have to do is have one belt going, we'll call it north and south, and one belt going from east to west, and then the east to west belt goes out to the second tier of belt. It's kind of hard to explain, but here in a minute, once I get it set up, you'll see what I'm talking about. But yeah, so basically, I believe I had the gravel set up to go on the inner belt, and the copper plates set up to go on the outer belt there. Which here I'm just slowly setting everything up. It's a little bit of a process because you don't really want to have it wrong, and then you have to chase down gravel that got put on the iron or on the copper belt, stuff like that. So, and here I'm setting up the sulfuric acid output, which is set up basically the same as the water input. But yeah, it really wasn't that hard. I just kind of piped everything out a little bit further, connected it all up, and then put it in that tank, which, as I said, is linked up to the other sulfuric acid tank, which is being fed by the petroleum gas and all that stuff. So yeah, and here I'm just kind of tweaking how everything's going through. As you can see, there's plenty of sulfur on the belt and not very much copper dust. And the reason for that at this point is because if you think about it, we've got 4 fast inserters pushing copper dust into the factories. And we only have 1 fast inserter putting it on the belt. So that's why I'm adding that second fast inserter there. That helps quite a bit, especially while we're waiting for everything to catch up. It doesn't quite keep up with it, but it's close enough to where I'm happy with it. And here we're just kind of adding down some more mines since our throughput is so much better than it was before. As you can see now, the sulfur is starting to get dwindled down, which is fine. I mean, it still has a little bit of a backlog once we get everything up and running. So around here is where I notice there's not really any gravel being pulled off of that main supply loop. And the reason for that is the gravel that's coming from all the other operations gets used up first. So I pretty much have to move that gravel pile factory. And the reason I'm moving that instead of just activating it is this way it allows the gravel inserters that are feeding the pulverizers to have first crack at the gravel. And then anything that gets past those inserters can get used up by that factory. And as you can see, that clears up the problem pretty quickly. So here I'm just kind of worried as to why we're not getting very much sulfur. But for whatever reason, that resolves itself pretty quickly. I'm not sure exactly why it is, but it is. And I think here I just ran out of iron. So I'm just kind of checking up on everything while I'm up here. And then end up just soaking up a bunch of iron. At some point, I'm going to have to kind of tweak the iron production just so that there's more throughput. Because the Blue Science factory is taking up like all of the iron that I'm throwing at it. And that's fine if I'm not using Blue Science, but as soon as I research something with Blue Science, it just sets everything back. And it's kind of a pain in the ass. So what I'm doing right here is pretty much the same thing that I did with the stone and gravel up in the iron production. What that what that smart inserter is programmed to do is when the box with copper dust has more than 100 units in it, it pulls copper dust onto that other belt, which feeds the furnaces. So that way, because if you remember, we're producing more copper dust than those factories are actually using. So that way we're using up the excess. And it actually ends up working really well once it kind of equalizes out. And here I'm just kind of monitoring levels. As you can see, we're staying right around 100 there. And every once in a while we throw some onto that belt, but obviously the factories that are going into the chemical plants have first crack at it, so those are always going to be running at capacity. And then after that, we're going to have those furnaces going, just processing anything extra. All right, so I think that pretty much does it for copper production. I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. And I don't know, if you liked the format of this video, let me know. If you absolutely hate it, let me know. One way or another, let me know which style you prefer. And yeah, we can go from there. In the next episode, I'm probably going to work on iron output and yeah, possibly start working on logistics networks. That's going to be the next big project. But yeah, until next time, take care of yourselves out there, and thanks for watching.